Charlotte Rea-Patel was born in London but has lived in Northern Ireland most of her life and now resides in County Derry. When she isn't working on her young and adult manuscript, she'll be practicing her cello or outside in the garden growing a wildlife haven for all her animal and human chums. And actually Charlotte and I have had many discussions about gardening, and she gave me advice about planting garlic, and every year I text her when I'm planting my garlic and I tell her I'm planting it, and then when it grows I text her again and go, my garlic came up, as if it's a miracle. Anyway, we're delighted to welcome Charlotte reading her story. Reuben.
Reuben. Rue sipped her double G&T and huffed on the sofa. Gutted her Marrakesh adventure for her birthday was cancelled. COVID was stealing lives, clipping wings, and the country had gone into complete lockdown. The alcohol was swimming rightly through her veins by now, and something had to be done to mark her birthday. She scrolled through her phone for all sorts of things that might take her fancy, but still she searched. Until the booze hit harder after a couple more doubles, and she realised she could look for it and not let on. Sure, what harm would it do? The following morning, she had a raging hangover and an email notification for a receipt of payment. A £400 payment for a brand new cello set in case. She rolled her eyes and cursed herself. The refund from Morocco didn't last long, and she tried to think of a positive for the misfortune of getting blind drunk with her PayPal logins at hand. Rue knew that this wasn't a whim because of her birthday blues. She used to play once as a child, but she tried not to think about those days. She waited patiently for the parcel to arrive, and 2 weeks later it came. A box the size of a tank arrived at the door. The courier smiled at her, unperturbed by the package. She had imagined he'd probably seen a lot worse in lockdown and was now a veteran of the weird and wonderful. The smell of varnish hit her nose as she unpacked the parcel carefully, trying not to drop anything or tear too roughly. The bridge was wrapped neatly in bubble wrap, and she examined it thoroughly, turning it around to look at it. Eventually, Rue found a tutor, and once she had the cello in pitch and the basics, she finally sat with the instrument quietly one evening. There was no pressure to do homework or play her scales and chords. It was just her and the sleek black cello and the fragments of her memory. Instead of using her bow, she plucked the string, or pizzicato as her tutor called it. This she remembered as a child. She plucked an open string C, and the deep, rich sound seeped into every pore and hit her in a different way. Her mind flashed with the images, and she could see herself as the 8-year-old trying to remember her open string notes with difficulty. She even the penciled in letters C, G, D, A written onto the bridge to guide her. She remembered the floral curtains in her bedroom and the sunlight pouring in through metal frame windows, wood-chipped wallpaper and grey striped carpets, and her soft shell cello case sitting in the corner with her bow resin carefully wrapped in cloth. She remembered how meticulous she handled the sheet music and her bow. Her room, the retreat from the warring factions in the flat. The more she played that evening, the more came to her, even the memory of her first concert. All her brothers called truce on the incessant feuding and sat on her bed quietly and listened to her play. The more she practiced, the more skills she gained, and the more she remembered. She knew how much the younger Rue loved her cello, and now the older Rue found it brought smiles and tears. She wasn't entirely sure why, but she even named the cello and called him Reuben. She read somewhere that good memories could be buried by the bad ones. She didn't think she had that many good ones at all, but now she had these precious few grains of something that were taking root inside her. Although few, their newness and gleam outshone the rest. In the end, the raging hangover had been worth it. No amount of money could have given her the birthday gift of remembering. Whenever she has a drink now, she raises a glass for the little girl and for Reuben.